Gamers, we are back again. You know what time it is, Jelly Cordy. It is finals day. We've watched a lot of matches, guys. We've gone through some really good sets, rocking here with the community. Guys, I'm going to be here with you with every single game, trying to keep it a little overpowered. It's going to be me, Ego, but never rocking alone. To one side, I got Cordy. To one side, I got Jelly. But just in case you're new around here, Cordy, let the people know just in case they don't.
What's going on, guys? Cordy. I stream Paragon 4 days a week, Thursday through Sunday. Make a lot of Paragon content, and then we also have a podcast coming up with me, Ego, and Wolfie. I'm super excited for that.
Oh yeah, man. And Jelly, for the people who don't know, but definitely should, let them know.
What's up, guys? I'm JellyKnees. I am a content creator for Paragon the Overprime. I stream occasionally, but mainly creating YouTube videos, and I'm a partner creator with them. And love the game, love to see where it's going, and very excited for semifinals and finals today. So it's going to be a great day for sure.
Yeah, buddy, guys, and I'm seeing it in the chat already. I can taste the excitement. It is game time. What happens when an unstoppable force meets what appears to be another unstoppable force? Every single one of the teams we have here today in the semifinals were absolutely amazing yesterday. We didn't see many mistakes. However, we do know at the highest level play, even the smallest slip up that others may miss can lead to catastrophe for your team, can lead to you losing out on that $1,000 prize, guys.
It's a lot of bread.
It's a lot of bread, man. The baker, oh, we're bringing it back.
A lot of bakery.
Guys, it is about time for us to make our way into this first set. It is going to be Rattus Maximus going up against the Conte crew here in Honolulu. And one thing that I would like to point out, that I would like to specify for the gamers, is everyone here, it's such an excellent player. However, there can only be the one winner. And the entertainment that these guys are going to be providing us with is absolutely out of its mind, giving us the opportunity to look at these higher levels of play. But before we immediately hop into this, I just want to take a couple minutes, comparatively to what we saw yesterday and what we're expecting today. What are we expecting out of the picks and bans?
Picks and bans, they're kind of really the same. More than likely, we're going to see a Kwong ban being picked up. Kwong and Adele have been really great in these past couple of games, so I'm expecting them to be either banned or picked first.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I think we're going to see some targeted bans to Conte from the team of Rattus Maximus. That we're going to see that Kwong ban come through, and then we're going to see potentially Honolulu ban out the Adele, which we know Rattus Maximus used pretty effectively. I could also see them banning out the Murdoch, so Brian Knight can't pick that out in the off lane again. But we'll have to see kind of where that comes through.
Yeah, man, and Kwong so good.
That's one thing that I wanted to talk about too, like comparing to one of these teams, because Honolulu is regarded the greatest team in the Paragon right now, and Rattus Maximus, they're more on the newer side, not new players, but newer side formed, so they don't have as much like competitive and team experience. I'm expecting Rattus Maximus to come out with some janky stuff, man.
Oh,
we saw the Richter Decker combo, and then the Murdoch and the Solon. I just want some jank from them, because if you just try to play a real game against Honolulu, I think your chances of winning are going to be a lot slimmer.
Yeah, man. And I mean, we've come to expect it out of this composition, but we've also come to expect it out of a fan favorite, Rat. You can see his name everywhere within the comment section, really, and he's always bringing a new flavor, a new spice, and a new form of strategy around the teams or the teams that he plays on. I mean, yesterday, that composition we saw brought into that game against Duality, we saw what it wanted to do off the back, but, it became a question of, well, is it really going to be able to execute that well? You see the team fight, you're just going to be able to play the space away from it. If they hit one, yeah, you're going to be able to get a pick, but what does your composition do outside of that? And we saw them execute it by setting up in key spots around the map, utilizing the bushes, and it doesn't take much from what we saw more than you taking a second to hesitate. And the moment that you stopped there, we saw Dashin, Grux pull, Richter pull, fail, and it was so much CC and so much displacement, but the damage that accompanied it just made it so dangerous. And so I'm excited to see if they got anything like that cooking. And I do agree with you, Cordy. If you're looking to just go, how can I put this, mechanics to mechanics against Honolulu, it's gonna be a bit of a tougher time here for you. But I do believe these teams are just about ready. Jelly, do we want to do a final check-in with the players to make sure that they're all good to go as we ladies and gentlemen, are going to be looking to make our way into game 1 of set 1. Rattus Maximus lined up right across from Honolulu and the Conte crew. We know what both of these teams are capable of. However, Rattus Maximus, as you guys pointed out, a little bit more of a wild card. Going in, I'm going to ask you, Jelly, here real quick, as we are going to get loaded in now to the picks and bans phase. Is there any characters outside of the tank's damage dealer side that you think could be really impactful into those tanks?
I think that we saw yesterday Sparrow only on Sparrow did a wonderful job of shredding through those tanks, building the right items, being the right place at the right time, great positioning, and having that ability to go through those. So I think we need to look at some of those carry picks, whether it be Sparrow or Revenant, as another option of something they can either pick early or ban out away from Honolulu. So we're getting into the pick ban now. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here. I think the biggest thing I am interested in between these two teams is we saw a lot of coordination come out of Rattus Maximus yesterday as a team. That they just comboed the ultimates really well, like you were saying earlier, Ego. But they also went into a couple bad fights as a team that they ended up losing while ahead in the game. And I worry that we're going to see Honolulu take advantage of those things. But if Rattus Maximus can keep the Conte and Sparrow only really out of the limelight, keep them down, don't let them get ahead, there's definitely a high chance that Rattus Maximus could pull out this game as well. So definitely some options on both sides.
And speaking of, you talked about Conte and Sparrow only. Those guys are really great players on this team that shine. But one person that doesn't get a lot of talk is JellyKnees. He does so. He is like probably one of the best mids in the game. So even if those other two are not popping off, you have to worry about the third head on that dog there. He's a really great mid laner that can pop off and carry the game himself.
Yeah, we saw that Bellica, he got an early kill on Bellica yesterday and turned that into just a massive lead for himself. So definitely someone to watch out for too.
Yeah, man, even in the game where it wasn't on that prio pick of Bellica, we saw him pick the Wraith. And, I kind of understand the ban on this character to some degree because we saw the pickup of this Wraith onto Jay as well as onto other teams like Bad Timing previously. And when it gets picked up, we're like, oh, well, I mean, the poke and lane is going to be good, but where are you trying to take it with that scaling, really? And Jay, if I remember correctly, hung 10 kills with only 1 death on this character. It was just super impactful by utilizing that rewind, at one point utilizing the invisibility that is granted from his ult to get a flash engage with him along with Conte. And with a first lock-in, Kwong and Adele are going to be left up, and Revenant is going to be picked up, having to assume that is going to go over to Sparrow only within the dual lane.
Yeah, and that shows some confidence too from Honolulu about they're willing to pick the Revenant up before the Kwong for Conte and hope that the other side doesn't. We got a steal pick now for Rattus Maximus, and I would assume the Adele's probably going to come through. No, we're gonna Morigesh in the mid lane. I'm still sticking to yesterday. I don't think Morigesh is the pick, especially this early on in the draft. You have to be really careful because she could get counterpicked here pretty quick.
Yeah, we'll see. Like maybe at the lower end, Morigesh can definitely stomp, but like on high level competitive teams, they can like you said, counter ban it or not counter ban it, but counter pick it and play characters that are going to be interface and keep her locked down because she has no kind of immunity. She doesn't have a dash. She has an escape, but that escape can be locked down pretty easily. And Gideon and Narbash being picked up. No Kwong and no Adele picked up here.
Oh man, and it's kind of odd because we do know that the EU scene puts a lot of prioritization on these tanky and more warrior oriented engage types, and as far as character goes, and Steel got taken by the other team. We saw that Kwong's up did not take it. We see Adele's up did not take it, but even more so, we know that Severog is also up. Someone we have yet to see appear within this iteration of the tournament, but we've seen just be incredibly impactful in the past and how much that it can orchestrate the team fights and kind of dictate the flow of a lot of engagements just from being so tanky. However, I do like these picks coming from the other team here. If you are going to be looking to shred a tank with the attack speed as well as the utilization of the silence and disengage on its ult, Drongo feels like a really solid pick, especially if you're going to be getting backed up here by a Mako. And if this is going to be Taurino on the Mac, man, I'm going to say out of all the Mako players within this game, this is most definitely, I'd say in the top 5 of them. Taurino, just a very prevalent and a very good Mako player.
And I think we're seeing the silence from Drongo is going to be fantastic. The displacement from Mako is going to be a great thing to have. Steel to be able to throw up those walls and stop some abilities coming through. Also really, really great here. We're just going to see Adele jungle, it looks like, on the side of Honolulu with Aurora in the off lane. So two very tanky individuals. Adele's going to be a little slower in that jungle start, but we've seen time and time again, all she has to do is get to that mid to late game and her damage goes up. It doesn't matter from there. So as long as she can make it there, she'll be super fine.
I also really like that pick of Aurora onto this team, Cordy. Very big fan of the combination of Aurora and also locking down with the Adele, because we saw yesterday one of the best counters to that Gideon ult, a character we know Jay is very comfortable on, was Adele. But in this iteration, now they just have both of them.
Yeah, Aurora is just a great character, and Fender loves to play Aurora. It's probably like his most played character in these tournaments. She's really safe, has great lockdown. She can get to the back line on these immobile targets like the Drongo and Morgish can go in, blink in, silence, AoE ult, freeze them, and they're just locked in for 2 minutes, and 2 minutes in a MOBA is a long time.
Yeah, looking at the draft, guys, who are you kind of leaning towards? Who do you think has the better draft in the current setup right now?
I like Conte's team here in the Honolulu crew. I'm a very big fan of the combination of Adele as well as Aurora on your front line. It is so prevalent, especially since both characters are going to be able to disengage. I feel like overall the healing from Narpatch is going to be super impactful, as we are now going to be looking to get in to this game one. Ladies and gentlemen, Core D, we're going to see you on the other side, gamer, because it is about time for us to get it rocking, rolling. We got the Mori, we got the Mako, we got the Steel and Kwang, some fan favorite picks. Maybe the Mori just on my side, onto the side of Rattus Maximus. The gamers looking to get a little bit of a brew on, while on the other side, some prevalent characters that have been impactful and overall winning picks over onto the Conte crew with the combination of Adele as well as Revenant. Right here in the casting booth with me is going to be JellyKnees, and I'm going to hit him with the question right off the back, Jelly. You asked me about the draft. Now I'm going to pivot it back to you. Which one of these drafts do you like more?
I think it's going to be really hard for Rattus Maximus to get through that front line on Honolulu. If Adele and Aurora can just put up the front that they are so good at doing, then there's going to be a wall that they have to work through, and that's going to be very difficult. We don't have a lot of sustained DPS on the side of Rattus Maximus. Drongo is really going to be their best bet. Morgish is going to be useful, but once she blows her cooldowns, she's going to be in a rough spot. Kwang is going to be helpful to an extent, but he'll be trying to get into that back line, so it'll leave Drongo to really try and pierce through that front line of Adele and Aurora. So I think Honolulu wins in just pure draft concept, but we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, man, and I mean, we've seen a lot of execution of some styles of play here coming out of the Rattus Maximus team that you don't quite anticipate, especially into the drafts. And one thing that we did see previously in this same draft was against Duality, Morkish was able to be extremely impactful as they had built around that character, looking for strong engagers, looking for people who can displace the enemy team. And they do still have some strong engagers on this team, as we are going to see an early rotation here coming from north on the Kwang. That is going to be a sword throw that'll just briefly miss here, as it is going to be a counter back of an engage here coming under the door. There's going to be a Karma getting proc here, as North is going to be looking for the disengage. It is going to be him able to get out, but at sub about 20% of the threshold of that maximum HP, as we're more than likely now going to be seeing an invade here onto the three coming from the combination of possibly the mid laner as well as Conte, looking to get a little bit of clear, a little bit of map advantage here within the early phases of this game one. And I think this is going to be something we're going to see very prevalently throughout this match, man. Jelly, a big part of playing the jungle within this game and playing it well is invades, because that gold is not only gold you're gaining, but it's a gold you're taking away from the opposite side.
Absolutely. I think the interesting pick here was North on the Kwang. He was last pick in the game in the draft. And I don't know that Kwang is the best pick in this scenario. If you wanted to steal that away from Conte and them, that's fine, do it earlier. But with the last pick open, you still had things like Crux that were available. You still had a couple other picks in there that could have been valuable for the team, that I'm not sure Kwang was the best option for the composition that they're building. But we're going to have to wait and see. Xena could have been great having that additional DPS going through there. And even we could have seen another tank coming into the Sevarog, pass that over into the jungle instead, and see if you have something to help your team a little bit more. I'm not sure Kwang is the best pick for them, but we'll have to see how it plays out throughout the game.
Yeah, man, and by combination, it is something that we did see not only in the draft, but in some of the gameplay of Conte and Honolulu's drafts yesterday as well, and that in their drafts, we see what they are overall and generally going to be going for in some of these games. They want to lay certain combos together. They want to apply pressure with certain picks in combination of mid as well as the jungle. However, within this composition for Rattus Maximus, contrary to the other side, it's kind of hard to tell what they're necessarily shooting for into the late game. They do have some characters that scale very well. Conte, not as well known to play this Adele pick coming out of the jungle, but from when he has played it, it's had very solid results for this team. Pivoting over to the other side, though, in the jungle is going to be the Kwong in combination with the Morgus. You do have really solid late game scaling, but to what end? And as that is happening, we are going to now see North making a rotation over. Keeving possibly caught a little bit out, but it's going to be a missed teleport over to the sword here coming from the jungler. But with the proccing of pain in to the Narbash healing, it looks like he's going to be able to sustain while it is going to be Revenant able to get some good damage off Conte. Now revving over onto the backline, it's going to be Mako caught out in this situation. The true damage from the third flick of the whip is going to result in not one but 2 kills, as Revenant and the Spear only is going to be able to pick up a double here, sub 5 minutes into the game, going over in favor to this team and the Conte crew.
And that was a rough gank for Kwong to go in there, right? Drongo and Mako were already fairly low, about half health or less, from Revenant and Narbash, just poking them out, and keeping them under their tower. Kwong goes in, and it's hard for them to make the ground up to get into there and get engaged. By the time that they do, Adele shows up, and they're able to just completely flip that around and pick up 2 kills for themselves on Honolulu's side.
Yeah, man, and it definitely feels like there could have been something there. Narbash was at that threshold of just being an easy kill. The utilization of the pain, very good, and very much so forcing him to disengage from the fight. However, within the longer stint of the engagement, he did have a lot of mana up. So not all of that healing was able to be mitigated, but only 70% of it. And that 30% he was able to receive not only was enough to keep him alive, but also give his carry the opportunity to reset onto a gank with relatively full health. At that point, they pushed back, hoping to recover something, because a missed gank for a jungler is quite frankly just lost gold, as we are now going to see the mid laner making a rotation over, and it's going to result in Drongo once again falling. However, the kill now falling into the hands of the support of the Honolulu crew, as it is going to be Kiwi on this Narbash pick who's going to be picking it up before they now look like they're making a rotation possibly over onto the buff, which is going to be a Fire Spirit, and a Fire Spirit is a hell of a way to start a set, man.
Absolutely, and I think that gank was just miscommunication from the side of Rattus Maximus. Drongo was still in the middle of the lane with 2 people showing up into his lane, both from the Adele and the Gideon rotating from the mid lane. Why did he not know that? Why wasn't he already mid backing up? I know he was getting attacked by the Revenant, but Mako was cleaning out by a long time ago, so there was definitely something missing there in the communication for Team Rat.
Oh man, 100%. And another factor that I feel like does come into it is probably some degree of just, the first game warriors. You're in the semifinals. You know that you are just 2 sets away from that $1,000 cash prize. And as such, there's room to make mistakes, yes, but not very much. And if you do let those jitters per se get to you, it is going to result of the other team being able to capitalize on it. And that kind of feels like what happened there, as we are now going to see the Revenant has a 2-level lead here over his opposition here in Brandonite. 27 CS to a comparable 61. And while we do have a moment in between some of the action here within this game, we are going to have an instance to possibly take a look at the Karmas if this mid gank is going to be resolved. However, we are now going to see Conte get engaged upon utilizing that shield in order to mitigate the first surplus of the damage. Along with this steal, he is going to get some degree of shred. However, with Kwong now waiting in the wings, it is going to result in a kill to go in favor of Rattus Maximus, now putting themselves onto the kill boards as they possibly look to either invade or rotate out and just get a reset for this team. But pivoting back to what we talked about a little bit previously there, taking a moment to look at the Karmas. Out of the 10 Karmas allotted in this game, we are going to see that 5 of them in between both teams are going to be going over to this protection Karma, and we can see why healing can be mitigated with pain in a lot of instances. However, that burst of shielding that by itself also is going to offer a degree of mitigations. It's just so impactful in these team fights and ganks. There's no point in the game and no response to it in which a protection proc is not beneficial to you, even if it doesn't save your life.
Absolutely, but on the flip side, we see that Rat himself has on the steal has 2 debuff karmas there in demoralization and pain. If he lands his solid ultimate on Honolulu, he's able to pop both of those instantly and deal a lot of devastation to their team, making it a lot easier to take them down.
Most definitely, and I will say, all things considered, there is one thing that I do like onto the other team of the country crew in Honolulu as far as the Karma loadout that I do not see any of at this instance on Rattus Maximus, and that is the use of the Silence Karma. We've seen that come up so large within a lot of these engagements throughout the tournament, being able to get an engage on a tankier character and then silence the enemy team, whether we've seen it previously on Steel or Aurora. It can also have multi-use, as to where an Aurora is going to be able to blink in, silence just in case you have any anti-CC abilities you may be looking to proc, and then guarantee her ult to at least go off. Yes, some of the later stages of it can, if there was a purge in this game, be mitigated. However, it is still going to get that first instance of CC off on you, as well as if this team is going to be able to shut up team fights in their favor, going to allow your team to be able to get a smite, and we may just see that there, as it is now going to be 3 members of this team colliding in on Conte, but the combination of silence into the Adele ult as well as the Aurora one is going to absolutely delete out the first member here in this deal. As over to the side, it is going to be an ult from Jalera that is going to catch both. An ult also coming out of Mortgage is going to result in one falling, as it is now going to be North who's going to be able to collect a kill and then reset over to the side, looking to create some form of distance. He will fall as well, as Gideon is now going to be making a rotation over and knock now out the sprint mode will be the Mortgage, who is going to activate that sprint mode to get some degree of health reset as well as damage mitigations, but she's going to be getting chased down from the other side, and an oh so very low mana bar is not going to be low enough, and it's going to result in one last marking to go through, allowing for Rattus Maximus to pick up another kill.
Wow, Honolulu though showed their determination and their skill there. They were in a 3v2 fight in the favor of Rattus Maximus and were able to turn that around and still got 3 kills for losing 2 of their members. And they just absolutely incredible work from them.
Yeah, buddy, and we are going to see at this point, though, the objective lead is going to be going in favor of Conte crew in the Honolulu. And one thing I want to talk about is the patience off of that last engage has to be noted, as they just waited it out. Kwong and Steel were just there. They're like, if you guys want to do damage to us, you have to come within melee range. And at this point, it was below a 50% threshold, I think, on the Adele's just general health pool. She does have that shield to back it up, we're aware, but as far as her health went, it was near or just above or below that 50% threshold. But nonetheless, they didn't look to escape, they didn't look to engage, they waited for the enemy team to use some variation of their own resources to close the distance on their own accord. And when they did, it was an immediate blink silence onto you, and we're going to not only be able to get this ult off on the Aurora, but now we're going to be able to get this ult off and guarantee some degree of damage here from Conte's as well. Very good play coming out of them. However, as far as making up some of the loss, amazing play out of Rattus Maximus, as well as we are going to see an engage here within the mid lane, which is going to lead to no kill from the either side, as it is now going to be this team that is going to be able to just heal up and melt through the health bars here, as it is going to be Revenant who picks up the kill.
And just incredible work that Revenant was in the right place, right time, was able to pick off that steal, get him low enough for his team to come around, and they close it out despite how tanky he is. They're now moving over onto the Fire Spirit, but this should be relatively free. 4 members of Team Honolulu on this Spirit, with 2 just now approaching on the other side from Rattus Maximus. And Honolulu also is taking every objective right in the opportunity they need it. Great, Rattus Maximus rotated over to go to the underling. We're going to take the dual lane tower. Great, now we're picking up a couple kills. We're going to take mid lane tower with the underling and then rotate the Spirit. They're doing a great job of controlling this map and making sure the objectives are right where they need them to be.
Yeah, man, and it's smart engage as well, something that we saw and talked about in this team previously, but also we've seen executed in other higher ranked teams, such as Bad Timing, such as Rattus Maximus as well yesterday. It's not about just always being aggressive. You have to keep your CS and your farm in mind, as we have been seeing these teams do, but getting smart picks around times when objectives are going to be up. That way you have the demand of advantage off of their forward, and that is exactly what we saw there out of this team of the Conte crew, getting that pick on the mid lane after grouping and just waiting to see if anything fell into their lap. And when the steal did, they did not miss the opportunity to capitalize upon it, getting that pick and now making a rotation over to the Fire Spirit, which with now 2 stacks of their magical and physical power is increased by 10%. For those who may not be familiar, if you have 100 power built on a caricature at this point, that means that you actually have 110 power now built. This ability stacking as many times as you're going to be able to lock down not only the Fire Spirit, but Scylla as well, as that offers a variation of every buff.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier about the difference now between Sparrow Only and Brandonite on Revenant and Drongo. Sparrow Only has completed 2 full items already, 123 minions, 2 kills, 2 assists. Then looking over at Brandonite, Brandonite doesn't have a full item quite yet, 2 deaths, only 80 minions. So down 40 minions, down 2 full items, right? This is where Sparrow Only thrived yesterday, was getting that lead and just continuing to build it. I also think the Claude Storm and into the Secret Assassination Technique are perfect items for Sparrow Only on Revenant to keep building that lead as much as they can.
Yeah, and you know, talking about building the lead and the CS that you stated, I do want to show the exact numbers here. Despite being 2-0-2, very active, over that 50% threshold in activity on the kill boards, he still has 129, near to be 130 CS. That is almost a plus 50 advantage over the enemy team's carry at this instance. He's able to rotate, be aggressive, get picks for his team, and apply damage, but he is never missing CS, and that doesn't only come from farming out of that lane. This team is very aware. If we are in a lane, if we are applying pressure in that lane as a team, all of those minions are going to go over to Revenant, as they're going to be looking to get him into the later stages of the game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and it looks like we might be seeing Brandonite go into a jewelry box now, or Fanatic's Dessert. I'm not quite sure where his itemization is going. He's got 3 tier 2 items in there that don't quite build into something, I don't believe, but we'll have to see where he's going with there. Could be an attack speed, but I'm worried that he's not building enough to take care of these tanks on the side of Honolulu. Aurora and Adele are going to be the things in his way from the other team. He's got to start keeping them in consideration.
100%. And one thing that also becomes a facet that you have to consider in this game is your team has to have a degree of burst potentiality. The Mortgage is going to be offering that. There's going to be some pretty solid shred coming out of the Strongo. However, with the utilization of Narbesh's healings in these team fight, if you do not have anti-heal built, if you do not have flash burst damage to lock down characters and get them killed quickly, if these team fights are sustained over long periods of time, the innate advantage that this Narbesh is going to be offering these team fights and these engages and these resets is going to be huge. One thing I would like to point out that we saw previously within the tournament was teams with tankier character advantage here, as it looks like Adele here, Conte possibly called out, as that is going to be 4 people looking to make a rotation over him. However, it is going to be the Aurora Ice Wall instead to turn it into a pick onto the other team. Now, Kwang dropped exceedingly low. However, it is still going to be a relatively low HP bar and some shield being utilized, as it is going to be Conte who gets stacked by the Mortgage over onto the side of the lane. The scaling and contributions of this team are going to be large. It is not going to be Revenant looking to get a soul snatch into the other lane, as Steel is going to complete his on a double knockup from what we can see, and the permittance of some degree of healing here from the support as it is built will be a reversal, as it does look like it is going to be a 1-for-3 trade as the jungler goes down. The rest of the team as the Conte crew unites as they call up the Avengers, and they're going to be taking down the baddies within the solo lane before making a rotation out to the guard link.
And this is probably going to be also an inhibitor going down if Gideon and Aurora decide to push the lane. There is really nothing that Brandonite's going to be able to do on Drongo to get back in time. Kwang does come back up, so they will go to the guard lane instead. Drongo was able to pick up the duo lane tower, get himself a little bit more gold, and start to get these items more underway for himself, but not being there hurt his team. It was a 4v5 from the get-go. They did get a decent catch on Conte, but turned that around and actually lost 4 members.
Yeah, buddy, and I mean, I also gotta give it up to that Aurora wall. I don't know if it was planned. I don't know if it's assisted. Hey, I'm gonna just, you know, wag my tail a little bit around here, set up the ice wall for whenever we get a pull on one. But the ability to separate Kwang from that engagement all but took him out of the engage. He was not able to contest very much, if at all, after getting this burst damage coming from the tank, which means that a lot of the tools that can be utilized to get those health bars on the lower side from some of the damage dealers on this team in Honolulu did not need to be utilized here. Don't get me wrong, it is a very, very, very valuable tool here in the Adele, and as such, they were able to turn that team fight around because of it. But we are now going to see the proccing of another ult, as it is going to be Aurora once again splitting up the team fight, just separating the tanks away from the rest of their team, as they're going to be forced to engage over onto the side. It is now going to be Narbesh who's going to be bursting down to some degree. However, as as Morgesh is going to be able to get a stack on them. It is now going to, in response, be an ult here coming out of the Revenant. We do see those health bars are going to get extenuatingly low and is going to result in a kill as this team is going to burst down 3 members of the Rattus Maximus as it is the Rat Pack, which is going to get buried in to the grave. Somebody tell the Ninja Turtles, because Splinter has bit the dust. That's going to be 5 players down out of the Rattus Maximus as another fire spirit falls into the hands of Honolulu and the Conte crew.
And Rattus Maximus really fell apart in that team fight. They were fighting on 3 different fronts. They did not have any coordination of who they were going after. Morgesh was in the enemy jungle. Steel was fighting on the top of mid lane. And then we saw the other rest of the team getting chased down in the jungle as well. And it just fell apart for Rattus Maximus. They don't have the strength that Honolulu has right now. They have to fight together and pick off people at the same time.
100%. And one thing I want to highlight again there is that was another amazing wall coming out of the Aurora here. It's the same bait and switch that we saw previously. Okay, guys, so I'm going to wave my tail in front of them. Look at me, I'm an Adele. Blah, 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 blah. The moment that this team was able to split up, it was the combination of Steel as well as Kwang that got the engage. And then they turn around to help their team, and Aurora's like, oh, no, 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 no. Us tanks, we're gonna fight each other for a little bit. We're gonna let our damage have some damage on damage time, setting up a wall onto the stairs, either forcing them to take a long swing around while taking damage from the Aurora, or take the fight there. And when it came to Conte and the Honolulu crew's damage versus the Rattus Maximus damage, it just went insanely in favor of them. And I mean, can you blame them? The ult here coming from getting able to CC the targets down, while Revenant, of all people, who has been scaling incredibly well now, 3 items deep, one of which being the Kima Cannon, is just going to shred through when he's put in those type of situations. Amazing play coming from Honolulu, putting their damage dealers in a situation where they know they can thrive.
Absolutely, and we did see the Merchant's Jewelry Box come out of Brandonite to help deal with those tanks a little bit more. It looks like a fight's breaking out. Steel's going to get caught out a little bit, but he's going to be able to make it out and out with his charge. 5 people in the jungle for both teams, so they were able to hold out a little bit longer.
Yeah, buddy, and now it is looking like it is going to be Sparrow only dragging his team back here towards the Prime Guardian. As, ladies and gentlemen, it may be about that time, and it is let your hair down and bring out the drinks, because we got our first Prime party of this final day of the T-On Invitational. Overpowered XFTM looking to get a little bit active in the Prime Pit, as we are now going to be seeing a rotation here coming out of the Steel. And this is one of those moments where the Karma and Silence can be so valuable. A thunk here is going to come from the Narbash while still in Pit to mitigate any ideas this team has of getting an engage off, as Brandon's Nightlife is now going to be forfeit. It is going to be the Adele leading the charge, utilizing some bonus to movement speed in a chain that is going to miss. However, there's nowhere quite to run, as with the taking of the Prime buff, all of the inhibitors are going to be turned off for the time being. A teleport up from the Gideon, as this team is going to look to assail onto the targets here after now locking down the Prime buff, which is also offering them a degree of additional regen, but also attack speed. And with the combination of the 3 fire spirits they have secured thus far in the game, these inhibitors are already dead.
And Rattus Maximus was not in any position to defend that Guardian. They saw them in the jungle. They knew they had 5 people that could back up into the Guardian, no problem, and they went back to base. They backed up there, which is totally fine, but commit to that. Instead, they ran in there in this separated pattern and just died one by one to Honolulu. And it hurt them because they had no one to defend those inhibitors once they did go down.
Yeah, indeed, and now it is going to be a disengage here. Coming out of the Steel, however, it is going to be Revenant now getting a pull on the ult. And we're able to just see Morgesh's HP bar is absolutely melting. Some degree of regen, though, within the Shadow Realm. Ashley is going to be able to make it back onto base and get a reset here for their team, looking to apply some degree of damage. It is just going to be about 2% before it disengages, what is called for this team. The Rattus Maximus may be looking for a big play here, but a draw in from the Gideon is going to be huge, as Aurora is going to hit the counter ult off of the blink. The silence is going to be utilized, as the ice wall is as well. Now Adele with the big ult onto the backline is going to get a lot of damage too. However, it is going to be their life possibly forfeit, but instead it will not be. The utilization of the chips is going to be allowed to proc off here within this team fight, as North is going to do what he can to try to fight into the assailant, into the onslaught, onto the barrage of damage that is going to be dropped here by the enemy team here in the Honolulu Conte crew. That's going to be a big ult over the top, which is going to result in an ace, as there is no amount of space that can be played when in that situation. Game 1 going to Honolulu and the Conte crew.
Incredible close out there from Honolulu, and an unnecessary chase down coming from Rattus Maximus. Honolulu was backing out. They were ready to reset. That could have given Rattus Maximus time to push those waves back out, but instead they chased him down and tried to re-engage, and Honolulu was just able to turn that into a win.
Oh man, you have to think within that instance. You have to think that these teams were in their mind. They're like, okay, all we have to do is we just pull back here for a moment. Rattus Maximus sees that and goes, all right, we can get an engage off of this, right? We can get a reset. At the very worst, we'll be able to apply some degree of pressure to them and help clear out our middle lane. Nope, within a second. And we talked about it at the beginning of the game, and we saw it there at the end. Aurora, blink, silence, ult. Shut down the engage. Now with the full turn back of the tides, Adele able to get that ult off, utilizing the chain to close the distance, and despite almost dying, basically killed 4 members of that team. The true damage being procced and utilizing the chain secondarily again to keep one of the tanks in it came up huge in that team fight there. Hell of a game, but Cordy, gotta ask you, man, what did you see from your Eagle view?
That's just a lot of great team play from Honolulu. I was watching a lot of these fights, and there's a lot of focus early on towards the Adele, and it took way too long to get her to kill her. Finner and Conte did a really good job just staying alive and allowing their backline to do a lot of damage. Sparrow only 707, Gideon on Jay Leader on Gideon 8-1-7 with the most damage on the team. They just took so long to die. Adele and Aurora allowed those other guys to just, get just great damage across, and the tanks for the side of Rattus Maximus just couldn't stay alive longer. And going to that early pin early on is really, Jay Leader went Alchema Blaster at second item was his Alchema Blaster, and so we're only going to the Dekima Cannon, which is super cheap, going at third item. So getting that pin really early on just helped them help them in these team fights.
Yeah, I mean, Jay Larita, we talked about it before, being a force to be reckoned with and did the most damage in the game, definitely proved that. Several times in those team fights, he was able to get up there, use that ultimate, and nobody was able to stop him. There was no CC heading his way. There was no silence, anything like that. He was just able to get that full ultimate off, bring all that damage in, and help his team out for sure.
Oh man, and as that does complete game 1, now going in favor here of the Conte crew in Honolulu, Rattus Maximus. The ball is in their court in order to bring it back. They're going to have to get a W within this next game in order to keep the dream alive. 100 Kima apiece and $1,000 to that team. You are tuned in exactly where you need to be. This is the T-On Invitational, Overpowered X FTM. We're going to take a brief break here, but we're going to be right back with you. We'll see you soon. Gamers, we are back at it again here in the T-On Invitational, fixing some tech stuff on the back end, but also getting our boys prepared for this game 2, and a hell of a game 1 and a hell of a showing you under the Conte crew. Within that first game, we saw what they wanted to do from the draft, and what else is there to say besides they executed it, Cordy?
Yeah, and well, you got to go back to that Adele pick, right? Adele was just able to stay alive for so long. The shields, and also be able to do damage. I think she almost had second most damage over the 7-0-7 Revenant. So she almost out damaged him just as a tank. Being able to have that much damage, being able to tank as much damage, had the most damage reduced on the team. She is just a person that either try to first pick or just get rid of.
100%. The ban has to come through for Adele if you're not going to first pick her, because at this point she's proven too valuable to these teams, and she lasted way too long in that last draft when there were plenty of opportunities for Rat to have picked her up themselves. So we're going to have to see how they change and adapt to that, knowing that Aurora and Adele is something that can be done on the side of Honolulu. We're going to have to see how they change it up.
Man, most definitely. And I mean, we talked about it yesterday, guys, right? We're like, guys, Kwong, Adele, we can't. However, we did see within that game, Kwong can't do it by himself. Kwong does need that support system, put him in a situation to thrive in order for him to get some degree of burst damage out. And it doesn't only come into build, it kind of comes into play style as well. We did see some early rotations and ganks. However, guys, I felt like that was the most put respect on my name play I've ever seen out of Jay, the mid laner here for Conte and Honolulu. We're always talking about Conte. But this dude is insane. He comes up big almost every single game. And, I feel like we definitely have to spotlight not only this last game, but over the course of this tournament on whatever pick he's been in, he's either got the advantage himself, given his jungler the advantage, or done both. He's come up so big, and we have dozens of clips worth of content coming out of the Gideon ults from that game. Able to split up the pressure with the Aurora, or maybe just let Adele go in for the engage, and it wasn't even an ult over the top of the Adele one. They used Gideon's space he created with his ult, and then set up Adele's ult on the outside of it to force them either to take bad pathing, take the Revenant plus Gideon combination of damage, or you're just going to die to the rest of our team. And, oh, you want to run? That's fine. While we chase you down, Narbash, hitting the drums. Absolutely phenomenal, but so much of it was not only oriented around Conte, but out of Jay in the mid lane. Huge play out of him.
He's just a really, through all the tournaments that we've watched and all the gameplays, he is really, really consistent, right? We never really see a bad game from him. It's either like he does really good or he does really, really great. He's been really consistent across the board. And yeah, you definitely got to, respect the three-headed monster they have now, right? Sparrow only coming over from a different team. Conte, of course, it's Conte, got to respect him. And then Jay literally is just, he's part of the three-headed monster on this team. And even if the other players are not doing as great, you can always rely on him just to be there to do the damage, do the things he needs to do.
All right, guys, with that being said, are we prepared? Are we mentally ready? Overpowered chat, you seem to be slowing down just a tidbit. I need to know, are you gamers ready for the next game in the T-On Invitational? It's Overpowered, it's FTM, and it's you right here, the Paragon, the Overprime community. And we're going to be looking to get a little bit on the active side as we now are making our way into game 2.
I think what we really need to see out of Rat this time around is they need to respect Honolulu's mechanics. We talked about that going into the first time, that Honolulu probably has the skill advantage here. Right? That they're more seasoned players, they're more a seasoned team, that they work together really well. So they need to respect that. They need to play safer, play for that later game, and play for the mistakes that Honolulu will inevitably make. Let them make the mistakes and capitalize, rather than you getting greedy for something and they turn it around on you.
Yeah, man. And I mean,
and I want to see, like we saw that little jank before in the last set from Rattus Maximus. I think you got to pull that jank out, right? It's against Honolulu. If you're trying to beat them as a team, 5v5, team, straight up, same picks, same tanks, whatever. If you're trying to beat them on that kind of playing field, like a traditional MOBA, it's not going to work. These guys are way too skilled. They've been playing for way too long. We need to see some jank out of the side of Rattus Maximus. Just kind of try to throw Honolulu off guard with their team comp.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Morgish locked in too, and I think the last two of their games, I don't think she was locked in with the first one. She may have been. Do not clip me on that one. However, it does feel like they, what's the word I'm looking for? They need a gimmick almost to kind of play into here that the content crew just isn't prepared for. One advantage we do have here is seeing that the Adele is not banned again.
First pick Muriel.
And a first pick Muriel. I mean, all things considered, that shielding can come up very huge. And as far as the true damage that Adele does get through, it is going to be mitigated to a degree by just the amount, the quantity of shields that this Muriel is going to be able to drop down. But off of this pick already, this is a character that is going to very safely scale into the mid and late game and thrive when put in those late game scenarios. So with the Muriel now being locked in, we are going to see a Morgish being locked in now on the Honolulu team. Cordy, how do your stats feel about the prioritization that
I didn't have a chance to go through all my stats, but she's getting picked and banned quite often. I think there's only like a few games where she wasn't really touched. Yeah, she's being picked and banned.
Cordy, are we ready to accept it?
Not yet.
Going back to the Muriel pick though for Rattus Maximus, that is something that we saw yesterday with the Microcosm game versus Honolulu. They weren't worried about not getting Muriel, right? There are other picks that they prioritized more, that when even Microcosm picked Muriel up, it didn't show to be as powerful as we saw it in the hands of Honolulu and Kiwi, right? So we're going to see that they may not care as much about the Muriel pick. We got to see where they're going to put their priorities. A Sevarog coming through for the first time. Let's go.
Oh, baby. And it coming through on the NA side as well here. I can already see this composition. If he gets into the late game, it's going to absolutely be able to thrive in a lot of these team fights. We've said it before. He's like a curator, a musician. He orchestrates so well the tempo of these team fights. The fact that you can just sustain so much with the offer of damage on a low cooldown, although it's minor comparatively to some of the other characters that we've already seen locked in, but damage, CC, presence, and also the displacement on that ult are going to be absolutely massive. Not to mention the fact that you're going to have a Muriel to help mitigate a lot of that damage if they do turn to focus you. This could be a really good pick if they get to a point in the game to where it scales very well.
I would love to see the jungle pick come up with that Adele. I think they need another tank on their side, and the Sevarog Adele combo would be absolutely huge for Rattus Maximus, letting them have a solid front line, Muriel for the shields, and it'd be great to have going forward. We do need a mid lane pick out of them as well. We do see Adele come through, and then the Fae, which we saw them just thrive on yesterday, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, Fae has a really good clear against the Morgish. Just really good clear, great poke. I was actually kind of looking at this Murdoch pick, thinking like first picking Murdoch over anything, but it could be just to counter pick Rattus Maximus so they don't do that long range poke. But it is, I was thinking if it was going to go support, but it actually is going to be their true carry. So Murdoch is going to be the carry here for the side of Honolulu. I'm blanking.
Dude, it's the side switch every time gets me.
Yeah,
I'm like, I take a game and I'm like, all right, red is Honolulu, and then they're like, we want to switch sides, and I'm like, I'm done. I've been put in a position to retire. However, now with these rosters being locked in, I'm gonna say it off the rip, no inquiry required. As much as I really do like the competition for Honolulu, like I'll give it to Rattus Maximus. I really like the combination of Fae as well as Adele, as well as the scaling that is going to come in part from this Muriel as well as Sevarog, not to mention Drongo. Very, very big fan of their composition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to see a lot of combos coming out of Rattus Maximus here. If we get a Fae ult into a Sevarog route, into an Adele ult, it's going to be very difficult to do anything about it. It's going to be a great combo if they can pull it off, but we saw them do it yesterday plenty of times, so I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, man, and Jelly, as we enter back into the trenches, it's going to be me and you here, buddy. Game 2 of set 1. Rattus Maximus having made some adjustments in the draft. Now let's see if they're looking to make any adjustments in their play as well. This time, the Morgish being prio picked. Prio, not throwaway banned. Prio picked. I'm looking you in your virtual eyes, Jelly. By this team here, the content crew in Honolulu. I'm looking forward to seeing what they got brewing here for us, and if it'll be Rattus Maximus able to push it to a game 3. What? Okay, I am gonna pick your brain here. What do you think of this Morigesh pick within the mid lane, as it seems like that is where it's going to be taken?
I think that Morigesh into Faye is probably going to be a struggle. I think that we're going to see JellyKnees, who we know is such a good player, maybe pull something out here against the Faye, but the Faye's range and ability to just kind of keep zone control could be pretty hard for the Morigesh to deal with here. So I'm very nervous. But the pick I actually want to talk about, we didn't talk about it in draft. Conte got on his Kwang. We saw yesterday that when Conte played Kwang, the game just ended. He just took control, was able to do so much on the map with that Kwang that I think we're going to see a lot out of him this game as well. And it's going to be really interesting to watch how he plays.
Yeah, man, and one thing I like that you just said there that I find both funny but also kind of like scarily true is Conte got Kwang. The game ended. It feels very true in the way that this team is so aggressive, not only with the pick, but around putting Conte ahead. And one thing that you never want to see is a head Kwang, especially when he's going to be leaning into the face here of North on the Sevarog pick. A very good characterization, however, does struggle within the earlier phases of the game, as we are going to see Conte is very much so positively trading here to a degree, but the utilization of the shield is going to lend itself to North actually being able to pick up the kill on Conte within the earlier phases of the game. Now WD with the health as well as mana advantage here onto Jay, as they're going to be looking here for a disengage. There's going to be a blink out in the mid lane, as it is going to be a tied up on the kill, but the first kill, first blood advantage will be going over to the enemy team here, as it is now going to be protection that gets procced out of the mid lane here on JellyKnees, who's going to be forced to play on its back foot.
Yeah, and I think that was a brilliant part on Rattus Maximus. That Sev saw Conte coming through on the Kwang, said, Faye, get over here right now. I'm backing up into our jungle. He's chasing me in there. The two of us, let's turn on this guy, whittle him down before Morigesh can show up. And they did a brilliant job there getting Conte. Conte did pick up the Sevarog after the fact, but they did a great job just rotating, making sure to keep him down as early as possible.
Oh, man, and I feel like overall that's not the best case, because you did trade technically on a 1-for-1. You weren't able to get the secondarily one, but that feels like just such a feel-good pick here, as we are going to have a little bit of action in the dual lane. A rotation coming from the side here is going to be the Faye, as that damage is going to lend itself to a little bit more pressure within the lane, give Miro that time to make sure they have the ward superiority. However, waiting the wings on rotation could possibly be Conte here, instead allowing himself in his time to clear some of this jungle, as it is going to be Rats dueling it out within the dual lane. And as far as the health threshold goes, losing some trades here to this Aurora pick, now utilizing that shield in order to create a little bit of space for him in case that Fener was maybe going to be going in for an engage. However, pivoting back and expanding more on what we were talking about with that trade, that is a very good trade for several reasons there. It gives your Sevarog a little bit more space to farm in his jungle, and allows this other team in Honolulu to be aware or be forced to wake up to the reality of, if you dive our jungler, we will also come down to defend. We are willing to be there immediately. We will forfeit our farm to get him to the late game. And that is what is kind of required when you do have this Sevarog in the jungling role. You know that he's going to be able to scale. You know that he's going to be able to be potent, but you just need to help him get there, because unlike lane, there is a limited amount of CS that can be invaded upon. And at this end of the game, if I'm North, I'm feeling very confident being 1-1 at about 5 minutes in.
Absolutely. Well, and in addition, North is also already got, let's see here, it is 22 stacks on that queue. So he's already building up those stacks, really getting going. At 5 minutes into the game, he's doing a very solid job. 17 minions, 22 stacks. Just incredible work so far. And we're going to see how he's going to be able to take that scaling and those stacks into the later game as time goes on.
Yeah, and WTB Moss here having his protection forced here by some of the early engage coming out of this team, as they possibly look for a rotation out. It is going to be a dash in here coming from North. It is going to be a missed route over into the mid lane, as this is going to be a rotation over to gank. A bit of damage comes across, but not quite enough to be able to get the kill onto the Mortgage in the mid lane. However, waiting the wings is now going to be Conte here. We do know he has the knockup rated up, as it is going to be an auto dash into the sky with the lady with the wings, as it is now going to be a forced back more than likely here for the mid laner and WTB Moss, as Kwang shows presence and shows just how incredibly dangerous he can be. While it's more than likely now going to be a kill being picked up. 2 blinks going to be utilized to get it, however, as the damage trade is going to be negative, despite Taurino's best efforts. The healing coming from Kiwi just too potent within this instance, and as they are getting extremely low on the mana, they are at least comfortable with the fact of knowing that there's no blink under tower coming here, as it is going to be a kill picked up here for the Conte crew.
And we just now have both objectives spawning in. The Guardling just spawned and Prime Spirit spawned about a minute ago. It is a Fire Prime Spirit. So just like we saw previously, we're going to see these damage scalings get higher and higher as the game goes on when those spirits go down. Plus Guardling, of course, being able to use to push those towers down is going to be vastly beneficial for whichever team picks them up.
Most definitely, man. And as we are going to now see a little bit of damage here being traded within the side camp on the way to Spirit, it is going to go in favor here of the Sevarog, just in case that jungler may be looking to get active on the objective, which, as you pointed out, is going to be that Fire Spirit, offering an additional 5% magical and physical power upon each stack that is taken from it upon killing that Spirit. And we saw last game that damage, it gets up there very, very, very quickly, and the last thing you want to see is Jay here in the mid lane on this Morgesh pick able to scale into the late game with not only individual stacks but fire stacks as well. And as such, I'm expecting to see a lot of prioritization here is going to be put on this objective, as we are going to see what looks like North just scoping out the lane within this instance, possibly looking to set up a gank. A very sneaky snake he is, and a very confused Drongo, as they are going to be able to corral the enemy team back underneath the tower. But with the help of that Narabash, they are also now going to be able to resustain themselves up back to top health. However, do they get the read on what is happening here? It is now going to be an engage and an ult back to get them out of position here on Spearow only, as it's going to be Rattus Maximus in the dual lane, which is going to get the proccing of not only the recovery, but the healing that is becoming adjacent from that Narabash as well. However, is it going to be enough, as it is now going to be a root down in place. Kiwi, the Ogre, is looking all swamped now, as it is going to be Odir coming back from the mid laner, who has caught up to the engagement off of the rotation. That is going to be 2 down in the event that Rattus Maximus is going to be looking to make a play over onto this Fire Spirit.
And you know, North was, his trigger finger was itching. He's like, I can go in, I can go in, I can do it. Don't just let me go in. Waiting in those bushes, waiting in the wings, and he took his moment and thrived. Got 2 kills there. They're going to pick up the Fire Spirit as well. Definitely a great rotation and a great gank by North, and then the Fae as well.
And now Conte here possibly caught out of position, as it is going to be a full team rotation looking to corral the jungler back onto his side of the map. There will be no invades. There will be no steals. The fastest mind in the West has to make a miracle play happen in that situation. However, the best case scenario does appear as they do lose a couple kills, and they also lose the objective, but not the life of their jungler as well, who was able to create a little bit of distance, as it is now going to be Morgesh applying a bit of pressure back into this mid lane and pivoting over, as we do have a moment in between these engagements coming from both of these teams. Let's take a look at the itemization, as we had touched on previously here, and the one I specifically want to point out is Brandonite, once again with this alloy crossbow being built first item in place of Merchant's Jewelry Box. Conte as well as Aurora, very good tanks, but also very elusive tanks, which means a lot of the time you're not going to be able to just sustainably trade them, auto into them. Do you think that Merchants would have been better in this situation, or is it better to look for the carry lane trade and the general damage trade with the information that these tanks are going to be able to get out of your range more frequently than not?
Brandonite definitely has Aurora to worry about, so Merchant's Jewelry Box could have been a fine option. I think right now the trades with Carbon Alloy going into that Murdoch are going to be very useful, but what I want to see out of Brandonite coming out next is a Short Sword of Decay. We need to see that anti-heal coming through to stop Kiwi's heal from these people, right? It's just too strong, it's too powerful. You have to do something about it, and Brandonite being able to do that with the Short Sword is where I would want to see it most in the next item.
Oh man, a sword. It's weird because the hesitancy to build some of this anti-heal has boggled the mind of me and Cordy for a surplus of time here, as we are going to see an engage, it looks like here. Once again in the mid lane, it's going to be the combination of this Fae as well as Sevarog from Rattus Maximus. Big boy doesn't know where to go, where to call home, as it is going to be the ult here coming out of the Fae. The reprioritization is going to be put over to Kiwi. However, with Conte now back into the mix, he's going to be able to sustain himself, but Kiwi now finds himself in the tower, as that damage is going to come through and is going to result in a kill, but a trade it will will be, as it's going to be Jalira here, who's going to be able to get a stack onto the opposing team, but the root is now coming out big and very strong, as it is going to be a force blink away, as Aurora now finds herself quite literally within the thorns. It is going to be an ice wall, not only to create space, but to create an exit for themselves, as it is going to be Adele, who's going to be getting juggled by some of the damage, but also the knockup that is going to be coming out of Kwong onto the back line. Aurora with the re-engage is going to hit a big 3-man ult. The utilization of the anti-CC is not going to be enough to stop a double kill from the hands of Brandon Knight within this instance, still looking to apply the pressure and playing the space very well. Will be the Drongo, as that crossbow alloy is going to come up big with the damage over to the far rims, though. It's now going to be Murdoch running down the Talarino, who is going to fall down at the behest. It has to be the moment. Brandon Knight versus Sparrow only. A carry v carry. The duel interrupted by a combination of characters, but will still result in a kill going in the way of the red team here at Rattus, maximizing the damage.
And that was such a messy team fight that it was just a bunch of one-on-ones that turned into 3v1s, people re-engaging, disengaging back and forth. That just led to, I believe it was 4 kills for Rattus Maximus and 3 kills for Honolulu. And just a great job though for Brandon in that matchup 1v1 against Sparrow only. Had the perfect itemization. That's what we talked about. The carbon alloy against Murdoch is going to be the perfect item, and I love that they were just able to utilize that.
Oh man, that was it was nutty. It was insanity, and it was, as I agree with what you said, it was so messy. It was, I'm gonna push you. No, I'm gonna push you. All right, well, I'm low, so I'm gonna leave now. Okay, well, he left. Wait, he ulted us. He got all 3 of us with the ult. Oh no, and it just continued to spiral out of control here. These competitive players letting that competitive, not to pun oneself, but letting that ego maybe get the best of them within that instance, as they're like, I can get the kill. I can get the kill. I can get the kill. And in that instance, we did see Drongo indeed could get the kills, as if I saw correctly there, he did leave with 4 of them, as in the mid lane. It is going to be a little bit of aggro here coming out of the combination of Kiwi as well as Moss, but an ult here now to back up the Fae, as it's going to be a recovery that gets proc. Waiting in the wings is going to be their team, so be very aware of it. It's going to be Kiwi in combination with Jay here, and in the wings will also be Sparrow only, as it looks like we may have an engage in a grouping here. Poor Narbash, nowhere to go, as Drongo is going to be able to get himself another kill in order to increase the lead in the kill department for Rattus Maximus.
Absolutely, and we're seeing, I mean, 15 seconds up until the second Fire Spirit. Rattus Maximus can pick up a second one here for themselves. There's not a lot of pressure coming out of anybody else on the team. Aurora across the map in the off lane, backing to her base. Kwong is in the middle lane, but we've also got the Sparrow only backing off on Murdoch. So this should be a free Prime Spirit for Team Rattus Maximus, being their second one, giving them that 10% lead on that damage increase.
Oh, the right click is strong in this one, as Morgash is going to be able to pick up a kill. That brand, however, now putting itself in favor here once again of the shielding coming out of Adele, as it is going to be Jay, who's going to be looking to play some distance. Utilizing the ult is going now to be Rat, who is going to get absolutely deleted from the combination of damage. A negative trade here going once again in favor of the Conte crew, as they are now 1 kill away from evening it up on the kill boards, but now making the play to even it up on the objective one, as the Fire Spirit is going to be assailed coming out of this team now with the utilization of the heals. If there is going to be an engage that comes out of the other team, it will allow them to go in, not full quite at the moment, but much fuller than what they were previously, as it is now in easy smiting range, but it will not be expended, as the Guardian underling is up, and this team may be looking for a little bit of a double 15 minutes in.
Yeah, so forget everything I just said about that being a free spirit for Rattus Maximus, that Honolulu came back and said, no thanks, we're going to get a pick here in the mid lane, we're going to turn that into another pick, and we're going to go take that spirit away from you guys, no problem at all. Now they're all heading over. We're probably going to see a 5v5 team fight breaking out here on the guard lane. We do see Faye about half health in that mid lane, so she may not be able to participate. She has to go back to that base, which means it could be a little bit delayed. Drongo now also across the map on Brandonite, so we may not see something come out of here. Someone I want to revisit and look at is North on this Sevarog. North is now at 72 stacks on Sevarog, getting them big, thick shoulders ready. He's definitely scaling into this late game, which is giving him a great opportunity. 3, 1, and 3 on his build. He's already got the Zimia's toy under his belt, so we're going to see where he's building out next.
Yeah, man, and They're looking kind of tanky, as it is now going to be the red team here, as Muriel is going to be looking for an engage. It's going to be a reset over into the wings, looking to get out of the damage. They find themselves in the middle of it. Every support player in the world feels this pain. Talrino, you're a long way from home within this instance, as it is now going to be the Conte crew looking to group and play their space over onto this Prime Guardian underling. Reprioritizing these objectives is going to be the EU team here, as they're going to burst down the Prime Guardian and past that 2,000 health threshold and secure it with a smite onto the back end. However, Fenrir getting active on the backside is going to get a double ult. Now it's going to be a dash out here from the Severo in order to get some space created. However, it is not going to stop the onslaught of damage that is going to be coming out of this Murloc. This team is just caught out, and after having such a degree of a lead, they are just going to be caught and buried down. The damage coming up relatively huge, as it is now going to be a 2-0 trade that is going to go in favor of this team and the Conte crew once again. And it just feels like at this point of the game, they are just getting all the engagements they want out of the EU team, able to play the space so very well, but also able to get picks on the spacing of the enemy team in Rattus Maximus. We saw them briefly split up from the conjoining that they had within the solo lane that they had made the call for. And then instantaneously, we're just going to dive onto you on the back room here with Fenrir. Okay, these guys haven't made the rotation yet. Ice wall. We're going to hop you over here and we're going to hop you over there. And then they just scattered. And of a singular focus was the Conte crew able to get picks on both sides until just a few remained. Luckily, not an ace for this team, as some were able to get the disengage, but definitely the preventable loss of some lives here for Rattus Maximus.
And we're starting to see the Rattus Maximus from last game come out here, where they're fighting fights on multiple fronts. They don't have the coordination. And I think this comes down to that they're a newer team. They're not as comfortable working with each other as Team Honolulu is. They don't quite have that coordination built down yet. But we're starting to see them fall apart. They had such a great early game, great leads that they were using. They were working together, and now we're seeing a lot of solo missions go out there. And even in that last fight, Severog kind of turned around, went like, where's my team? Oh, they're on the other side of the wall from me. It's 4v1, and was just caught out and had nothing to do. So it was really rough for Rattus Maximus. I'm hoping they can pull it back together, refocus on this, and get these games back under their control.
And what we've seen is exactly this. This is how they've been able to thrive previously. Narbash, you have to go. They get a pick onto that, and then it frees them up to get a lot more engages, because the sustain has come up big. It hasn't been talked about as much for months, but it had been addressed here off the beginning of the game. We are not going to see a procking here of the ult here coming from Conte, as he's going to be utilizing it to, if anything, just threaten the opposition here in North. As now he's going to be looking for a rotation back to the mid lane. Playing the space really well is going to be this team, as they're going to maintain being grouped, but not enough so for Aurora to get a big ult. And one thing that I would like to iterate on is when we are talking about playing the space, we are talking about playing the space either in the engage or in the team fight, as we are going to see, just like that, a 2-man ult out of Aurora, which previously would have been a 4, resulting in a couple deaths nonetheless, as it is now going to be ult that gets shot by Adele, and is going to force other members of this team to back up, as it is now going to be Rattus Maximus, who's playing off the back foot. 12-10. It's up 20 minutes into the game with the Prime Guardian underling being dropped. It is going to be a Narbash who's going to be able to return to the fight with the low health bars. You have to assume this is going to be a give up of this tower, as it is also now going to be JellyKnees who's going to be able to get the ult off here onto Muriel, acquiring a little bit of another stack, and Conte, however so low, is going to be able to disengage safely into the loving arms of It's All Over now, as it is going to be the Prime Guardianlings who goes and drops. However, if this team chooses to rumble, there's not much Rattus Maximus can do about it, as they are going to have full HP nearly going into these engagements.
Absolutely. We saw that initiation from Aurora. She blinked in, was able to get her ultimate off, slowed everybody down, and then Morigesh picked off the Fae like she wasn't even there. Bug in the air, then Morigesh eats bugs, so I'm sure it was totally fine. But we see another kill coming down on the Aurora and the Narbash for Team Honolulu, or on Team Honolulu. And so Rattus Maximus is trying to fight their way back into this game.
Most definitely, and this is something that I have to respect hugely for these guys. The fight in them, going in with the Adele at such a low HP threshold, knowing, okay, we have the mana to proc the shield, we don't have the ult up for a surplus of time. What can I do for this team fight? What can I do for this engagement? I can CC. Okay, Sephiroth, what are you bringing here right now? I also got the CC, but I do have the displacement in case we need it for a team fight. Despite the fact that they didn't able to analyze, as some of the team had split up, retreating back to the sidelines, that they would not be together for this engagement. And their game plan orients so heavily around getting this Narbash Instead, every time Kiwi has been allowed to be in the team fight, every time Kiwi has allowed to be in lane, 4 members of this team are just allowed to push up, take some damage, leave, push up, drop some damage, leave, and they keep re-engaging at maximum health. And this is pre us even getting to the Prime Guardian dance, JellyKnees, something we've seen in previous iterations on this tournament. Just send in the tank to start aggroing, to start getting the health threshold lower and lower and lower. If you guys don't show face, we go all in on it. If you guys do show face, so what? My tank is 3/4 of the maximum HP. What do you do in that instance to it? And now with Rattus Maximus being able to apply so much pressure and this Severog at 95 stacks being also able to sustain in these team fights for so long, it's not as easy as a play as it previously could have been here for the content crew in Honolulu.
Rattus Maximus finds a pick on Murdoch in the duo lane between Drongo and Adele, was just able to lock him down, deal the damage, and get him out of this game for the next little while. And we're seeing another Adele in the jungle fighting Aurora, kind of getting her to scare off a little bit, but the fight is breaking down. 5 members of Team Rattus Maximus versus the 3 for Honolulu nearby. Adele's going to get stunned, picked up by the end. Everyone's just piling in here. Coming out.
Rattus Maximus confirmed.
She was locked down for 10 years. She was building a summer home there. She's been there so long. So
dude,
she had no chance.
Hands off the keyboard. I can confirm here and now, Rattus Maximus is not a big fan of the Frozen Disney movie because the only thing they were letting go was damage onto that Aurora. CC'd and locked down. It is now going to be Rat, possibly looking to get a little bit of a chase here onto the opposing team. Conte in combination with Kiwi at the wall. Was going to be Sparrow only now, playing into the shadow pool instead of aggressing further. It does look like it's going to be a call for a disengage as the team is happy to get their pick. And Jelly, I gotta ask you, man, stepping out of the casting booth for just a moment, isn't it exciting? This is what we live for. This is Paragon, the Overprime competitive 13-14 objectives wagered, that tug of back and forth. This is why we do it. We say we do it for the fans, but I gotta say, selfishly, I love seeing the egos get flexed from both of these teams. Both teams confident, believing, knowing that they could win this tournament. They could win it all, but it all balances for this game out of Rattus Maximus. And as a result, we've seen them really turn it up a notch.
Absolutely, and we're seeing the rock, paper, scissors come out of both of these teams, that sometimes they win, sometimes they lose. They come back, they reset, they figure out what they need to do and go into the next fight fresh and ready to go. So we've seen Rattus, we started it all up strong, kind of fell off a little bit in the middle there, and then now it looks like they're coming on back. So really excited to see these teams picking it up and taking it one step further.
Yeah, man, and speaking of which, we are going to see this team possibly pick up a pick here over onto the side. The ult is going to be utilized here, covering the ground. Is going to get some pretty big damage across. However, Aurora is going to be able to barely tippy-toe out of it, but it will not be enough as the damage comes off the back end, now making it a 1-0 trade in favor of Rattus Maximus, as the NA team is going to corral around the side. It is now going to be a sword throw. Pivoting over, Severog in the wings, now looking to get some degree of damage across in the 2v1 situation. However, he is ready to rumble 105 stacks, as hey, I can do this all day, man. And he is looking to send you to his hometown of the underworld. Call him an IHOP, because this man is stacking the opposition like a flapjack, like a pancake, like a waffle, because he is telling them to square up, as it is going to be Conte, who is under tower, getting assailed by the damage and tankiness of Rattus Maximus. Now, Jay, playing the space over to the side, is also going to be looking to possibly get a pick here. However, it is going to be a CC out of the ultimate for Rattus Maximus, as they're going to be collecting another kill.
I mean, North just absolutely demolished that team fight. He was in there. He took 8 tower shots under there while they're trying to pick up those kills. They definitely did the work that was required. He bat Morigesh back under the tower for his team to get the tower and her in one go, and he's getting out with his life. Oh my gosh, no way. The Murdoch sniping out the teleporter right as North goes through it, but a valiant effort from North. Incredible work from Team Rattus Maximus, and we'll have to see where they turn that into a bigger lead for themselves.
Oh, buddy, now it's coming down to this. Your jungler isn't aware what kind of defense they're going to be able to set up here, as is going to be the Prime Guardian. It's going to be dropped below that 10k health threshold here, just on the horizon of it, at least now, breaking into the 9k. One team has a smite, the other one does not. And the question becomes, Jelly, do you defend this? Do you all commit onto it? Do you burst down to the jungler with the Adele? That's a lot of healing that is going to be coming out, but is it going to be a reset before they can get off? Either way, it is going to be the Conte who is going to be falling here into the afterlife. Now, no, here coming out of Jolena as the UTB Moss is going to find himself at the gray screen, and it is looking oh so very mean. And the 6th man of the year, the Prime Guardian, is going to hit the big grab. Liddy gets up to make a triple kill. Go in favor of the Witch Queen herself. Lord, canonically take it out. The Fae, the beat from across centuries, eh? You're in my forest now, and this time I got a Severog. However, it is now going to be a call for a disengage and a reset, and in these instances, this is where we see Narbash come up to just be so powerful, so potent. These health bars are so much higher than what they should be, Jelly, as it is now going to be the Conte crew looking to seal their first step here and to make it into the semifinals. A rotation with the combination of Murdoch as well as Kiwi over onto the Fire Spirit. It's going to get melted expeditiously, and with no one from Rattus Maximus to be able to show face, it looks like it's going to be an evened up, not only kill, but objective lead here at 26 minutes into the game.
Absolutely, and Team Honolulu played that masterfully. They were able to back out, get healed up by that Narbash. We don't have any anti-heal still built on the team of Rattus Maximus, so they're struggling a little bit to deal with that Narbash. He was down to like 1/8 of his health at one point in that fight, was able to just heal it all back up. Adele going into the mid lane, trying to get this Morgesh locked down. It looks like they may pick up this kill. They will indeed. Drongo being locked down by the CC of Aurora during that fight, though, in the Prime Pit, definitely did not help them. He doesn't have any lifesteal, he doesn't have any anti-heal, so he was struggling a bit there. It looks like they're going to see a rotation over onto that Prime Pit. Narbash nearby, and Team Honolulu on the way. We'll have to see how this plays out. Adele dropping a beautiful ultimate onto this team. Narbash having to back up a little bit. Adele trying to keep him busy in this team fight. Murdoch trying to help him out, but a heal goes out from the Severog and crew. Backing out is Aurora chasing down the Drongo, or sorry, it is Conte chasing down the Drongo on Kwong. He is getting picked off a little bit, but we're now separated. Rattus Maximus has fought these fights separated for too long. Adele does get picked off in the backline. Kwong getting CC'd, getting out of there a little bit. Half health on the Rattus Maximus crew. Drongo is nowhere to be found. He had to go back to base. This is a bad engagement for Rattus Maximus. They do need to back out of this Prime Pit. Conte and crew are picking up this Prime Guardian. They started it up while Rattus Maximus has to back out. We're starting to see the Conte crew take the Prime Guardian. Muriel in there trying to make something happen. Morgesh does pick her up. Aurora trying to play defense and keep the other team away. Drongo takes a lot of damage.
Oh my God. Jeez Louise, and thank you so much there for covering me there, JellyKnees, as I most accidentally unplugged my mic. There had to get a little bit mechanical, try to keep the camera on while plugging that up, but thank you so much there for covering for us, man, as it is now going to be along with that Prime going down the enemy inhibitor that gets burned as well on both sides, as it looked like multiple members of this team are not only down, but down for an extended period of time. There is the potentiality to make a little bit of a play onto the damage on the core. However, it does look like that is not going to be the case here, as we're going to be able to get some degree of a soft reset coming from both teams. However, putting Rattus Maximus at a significant disadvantage. Jelly, 22-22, 2 on the objectives, 224 viewers in chat. Gamers, it has to be a stand here coming from Rattus Maximus. Taking a moment to look at the itemization. Brandon, now having had complete several iterations of crit, not having big crit quite online, but having the sustain as well as the penetration that Chainsaw is going to offer to melt through some of these HP bars. The Dream very much so alive, as Talerino is also, with those shields, offering a integration of not only healing, but also movement speed, as well as increased protections and health for everyone around him, with the High Priest Constellation being now built. That was a big play to lose, man. However, it's not over till the big lady sings, and those cores are both at 100%. And speaking at something being at a high total, Severog now 128 stacks onto him. Those shoulders looking nice as he's building out the triceps. What kind of team fight do we need to see here out of Rattus Maximus if they are to have a hope of stepping up and stepping into the semifinals, of pushing it to a game 3? And it seems like they already have their eyes on a target. They already know, Narbash, you cannot be allowed to be present here, as it is going to be an ult onto the backline that is only going to serve to separate the team fight, as now Brandon is going to be able to get a secure kill onto the side. That Drongo is doing a big damage, however, not big enough, as he's going to be shredded as well, with Sparrow only now being able to pick up a double. It looks like it just may be over, and the Murdoch is putting him to sit Murd down, as it is now going to be Taurino, who is chased into core, and one by one, they fall. The domino effect of the team fight being engaged over onto the side lane is now going to be the core all alone with the inhospitable arms of the Honolulu team, as it is going to go over to them 2-0 and having locked themselves into the finals.
Incredible work by Honolulu. They pulled it back together, were able to bring this game back into their clutches and closed it out with that Prime Guardian, and then using that momentum to end the game as well. Rattus Maximus unfortunately fell into their trap of getting those split team fights where they were not all coordinated. Adele on one side of the map, Drongo getting pushed out by Aurora on the other side of the map. They had no ability to get in on these fights and deal their damage they needed, so they were not able to hold that Prime fight, and it made them end up losing the game.
Cordy, what happened there?
Wow.
Man? It was so tight
insane.
for so long. A needle's edge, man. Before we get too much into the analytics, big ups and a humongous shout out here to this team in Rattus Maximus. These guys showed us quality play, insane composition, and also mortgage viability in a lot of their play, as well as a lot of their comps. These guys deserve to be on the stage. 100%.
Yeah, man, they played so well. They played really well. This game too is probably like the best match we've had all tourney so far. They played really well. It was back and forth. Rat did a phenomenal job. He was just killing it on Adele. Norp as well. The tanks for Rattus Maximus. I don't know why they weren't picking Adele sooner, man. Because he was doing really good on Adele.
Mm-hmm.
Great pulls, great ults, staying alive for a very long time with the shields. I think he has the most damage reduced. Yeah. Rat and Norb having the most damage reduced, 39k. Like, they were just playing so well on these tanks. I don't know why they weren't getting Adele sooner.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such an amazing game too, man.
Look at those damage charts as well, right? Rat and Brandonite all basically neck and neck in top damage, and she's a full tank, right? Again, this goes back to what we've been saying this entire tournament. Adele is a priority pick or ban. You guys got to consider this, and you have to take her into consideration, because even on a game that was as close as this, Adele's still topping damage charts and doing such a great job.
Dude, man, and it speaks not only to the characterization of these abilities coming out of Adele, but also when you see them piloted well. I have to agree with what you said, Cordy. I'm not sure why they wouldn't pick this pick up early. Maybe it didn't fit into what their game plan was, but they had it, and they did so amazing with it, Cordy.
Yeah, game one, they had the option too, but they chose to go steal instead. And Adele was like a last pick, but yeah, Rat was phenomenal. And if you think if he maybe picked it game one, that outcome possibly could have been a little different, maybe even closer of a game on that game one.
Yes, indeed. And guys, as such, we are now going to be uploading the standings. So if you hit ! bracket, you will be able to see that is now going to lock Honolulu in as one of our two finals teams. Guys, once again, an amazing set. That may just be my favorite set so far from in this tournament. These guys played their heart out. They mechanically were sound. They were so good there. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was the game we were getting a game 3. I 100% thought we got a game 3.
Don't you wish this was a game 5 series? Because they probably could come and take it back.
Yeah,
100%,
man. But with that being said in mind, guys, we are gonna take a brief break, as we are now going to be making our way into the new lobby here for our next matchup. It's going to be Parzival and Go Next versus Bad Timing. A couple fan favorites on both sides. If you are having fun, make sure to check out this channel. We do all types of competitive content. We have the OPO League on a week-to-week basis. If you are enjoying, as much as I am, the combination of the people sitting here with me, that's going to be Cordy, that's going to be JellyKnees, that it needs to be addressed, that we do have the links to their individual channels, !Cordy, !Jelly. please, guys, check these guys out. They're phenomenal. We wouldn't be able to do this type of stuff without them being in the casting seat. You saw it in that game. I had some technical issues, and without a moment, Jelly was there to pick up the slack for us. Absolutely fantastic. We're going to be right here back with you. We hope to see you there soon. Stay overpowered.